cell phone service this morning with what our office has actually been in touch with AT&T, although they have not told us necessarily what caused it. They are working to put people back online, and I don't know if any of you've gone back online. They are focusing a lot on emergency services, and if somebody does not have cell and they can't make a call and they do need emergency text message, if you can get on a data, that is something that is being received from emergency. So they're really working there, and then law enforcement, and then hopefully get everybody else back online. But I mean, it's like you think about just your daily life, like having like cell. It's honestly, it's like, imagine if we had like an EMP attack or something like that, what would end up happening in this country? So it's not necessarily a good thought, because you think you're just so naturally reliant on having cell service. If you're in the car, you need to figure out where you're going to go, all this other stuff. So it's a little bit jarring to think about the implications if something like that happened on a much grander scale. We're here today to highlight an example of good government and positive government reform. We were here almost a year ago, signing legislation to bring an end to really an anomaly of local government, which was the Reedy Creek District, that was intended to help facilitate the development of a theme park, but also a community where you'd actually have people living there and voters who would eventually vote and then would elect people to run the district. That never actually happened, so the default of the district was that it was run by a single corporation, the Disney Corporation, and that is just not something that is going to work, or that works in a Republican form of government. So ultimately, the acts that have been done over the last 2 years, really are about who governs in our society. Is it one company gets to call the shots, or is it we, the people of the state of Florida, that get to call the shots? And we made the decision that in any part of the state, it needs to be we, the people, who are calling the shots. And so we signed this legislation last year. We signed the legislation last year, and as I mentioned, I mean, having development districts, that happens all the time. Not just in Florida, but in other parts of the country, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think this one, when it was done in 1967, that was prior to our current state's constitution, which was ratified in 1968, and it really provided unprecedented authority, partially to be able to streamline the development of the theme park, which was probably effective, and maybe that was one of the reasons ultimately why the company decided to come to Central Florida. But there was supposed to be a community that developed where you'd have people and homeowners, and that just never happened. So you ended up having a situation where this whole district was being run by and for the one company. There were a lot of anomalies over the years people would point out, but ultimately I think it was just a question of political power. They had it. No one really wanted to mess with it in the legislature until more recently. So what the bill that we signed did was to actually impose accountability over this district by creating this Central Tourism Oversight Board, where the governor was able to appoint the people to serve on this district. And we're going to hear from Martin Garcia, who's the chairman of what the SIFTOD, they call it. We're also going to hear from our Secretary of Commerce, Alex Kelly, and then Drew Crawford, who is also involved here, and then Mandy Schaefer, who's a mother locally here in Central Florida. But you ended up having, of course, theme parks, a whole bunch of stuff happened, tenant businesses, all these other things, and yet it was really only being run by one company. Now, we know some of the things that went in, and I was honestly surprised, because when I became governor, I didn't really have a sense of all this, but the amount of special treatment and exemptions under that old Reedy Creek was unbelievable. I mean, if you're Universal Studios or SeaWorld, you operate under a much different set of laws than what you were operating here with the Disney Corporation. So that's clearly an anomaly to not have people, especially in the same industry, treated the same way. So there was exemption from sunshine laws, exemption from regulatory reviews, obviously major tax breaks, no Florida building and fire codes, all these things. The monorail had never been inspected, whereas every other transportation thing in Florida has been subject to that, but they were exempt from it here. So there is it was clearly not a situation where it was emblematic of good, transparent government. So we signed that. It's interesting. When we signed the bill, there was a lot of people claiming that this was going to cause taxes to go up on people that live in Central Florida, Orange and Osceola counties. And I said that was not true. And clearly, you look today, that was a total red herring. Like, nothing happened with that. In fact, and Martin will probably talk about it, this board has been able to reduce taxes for the tenant businesses that are in here, who were basically paying to subsidize the company, so a 7% cut in property tax. But that was one thing people were saying. The other thing they were saying is, well, this Reedy Creek district has racked up municipal debt, and they had done that. I think it was about $700 million in unsecured municipal debt. They had utility bonds. It was close to $1 billion, maybe over $1 billion with all told. First of all, that has not been passed on to anybody else. So that is here in this district with of course, the company being the major taxpayer that will pay that down. But if the district were to be dissolved tomorrow, they have enough assets here where they would be able to sell and do that. So that was another total red herring that they tried to do. So none of that stuff ended up happening. But what has happened is a lot of things designed to have good government. So they conducted a big audit about what had gone on over these more than 5 decades. They had nationally recognized experts come in finance, accounting, governance, urban planning, you name it, and they have made a lot of findings about things that had happened. And some of the things that had happened, I think it's been reported now that there were all these benefits that were given from the company to the people that were running or involved with the district, which is clearly creates a conflict of interest, and it would not be acceptable if you were on a city council somewhere to be getting that. But a lot of what happened was it's just human nature. When there's no accountability, of course this stuff's going to happen. Our founding fathers understood that. That's why they believed in checks and balances. That's why they believed that government needed to be accountable. When you have opaqueness, no transparency, and basically one private company calling the shots, of course you're going to have things like this. So this is not anything unique to Disney. I think anybody in this situation, you would have seen a lot of these things happen. It's just basic human nature that does. So this audit really identified a lot of different problems that are being addressed, and I think it's something, and I'm sure some of our speakers will talk a little bit more about it, but it just shows that this arrangement was problematic, and it was not similar to anything else that we have in the state of Florida, not even close in terms of what we have. So they've been able to take action to remedy a lot of this stuff. It's interesting. One of the things, I think there was a frustration because if you wanted to do business with the district, like maybe you were a business in Osceola County or Orange County and you wanted to offer services, you really didn't have a competitive bidding process where you could offer services. There was the company had certain preferred vendors and you were either on it or you're not. So since the board has taken over, they've opened it up. And guess what? You now have businesses locally here who are competing for and actually earning contracts to be able to do work here. And so just on the buy local, trying to focus on facilitating local buying, that has resulted, look, this is less than a year since the bill's been signed into law. It's resulted in $9.6 million in local contracts and $1.5 million in savings for the taxpayer. So that's a pretty good deal. And that's the thing. What you want here of a local government is you want a government that's working to provide benefits to the people in the communities here in Central Florida. Now, that includes the theme parks, SeaWorld, Universal, Disney, includes all of them. I know only Disney's here in this district. So it's not that they should be excluded, but it shouldn't only be for their sole benefit. And I think they're really correcting in a way that's been beneficial to the local economy. So we're excited to see those results. Also, the district is working to reduce the overall tax burden on residents and tenants. And I mentioned they did the property tax cut. Already they've saved the taxpayers, which are mostly a lot of these tenant businesses, they've saved them $18.4 million just in the last year. I mean, that's really significant. And part of that is the property tax savings, $13.8 million. And actually, even though they reduced the rate because the property values have gone up, the district, is still taking in revenue, but they've reduced that by $13.8 million, and then the procurement savings of $4.6 million. So you see, you have a competitive process. That makes a really, really big difference. And so this is something that has been, I think, so far a really important success. It's a great story about how you can have good government. You can reform when things need reforming. They've also done other things like abolishing the DEI that had been mandated by the district. That's discriminatory. That's wrong. And so they stepped up and did that. So all in all, I think you look back, it's been less than a year, and you see a lot of the progress that's been made. It clearly has defied the pundits and the conventional wisdom and all the narratives that people tried to spin. And ultimately, it's a result that you now have a local government here with this district that is functioning in ways that are much more transparent, much more accountable, and ultimately much more beneficial to the people who live and work in Central Florida. And so that is a win for not just the people in this region, but it's a win for the entire state of Florida. So I thank everybody that's been involved in this. And we're going to now hear from some of our speakers. So we'll start with our Secretary of Commerce, Alex Kelly.
Well, Governor, thank you so much. And as you noted, it was almost a year ago. You signed the bill. It was February 27th, so just a few days away. And really, Governor, thanks to your leadership, thanks to the hard work of the board, Chairman Garcia, Glenn, thanks to so many of you, you really have created and you're elevating, really a new, fresh ecosystem for job creation, for business formation here in Central Florida, really creating new opportunities to grow. Thanks to the district, thanks to the leadership of the chair and the team, that ecosystem is accessible for small and emerging businesses, startups, that really you now have a community that's no longer sort of subservient to sort of one company, but really is really now accessible to small business throughout the entire region. It's an opportunity that really, as the governor noted, you can fairly compete for contracts, and you have to have free market competition. You have to have accessibility for small and large business alike to truly have a dynamic, thriving economy. And the approach you've taken, really looking at obviously Osceola, Orange, but also Polk, Lake, Seminole counties, is a dynamic approach. And you should be proud of that for what you've done. And of course, when there's an opportunity, what we're going to see next, when you create an opportunity for business growth, particularly small business growth, particularly entrepreneurs, particularly innovators, particularly new participants in these contracts and the economy here, you're going to create an opportunity that's attractive for job seekers too. You're going to create an opportunity that's attractive for that talent pool that says, hey, there's something there for me. I want to go there. I want to go to that community because there's great jobs there. And the simple fact, the simple fact is that, Governor, thanks to your leadership, thanks to the determined leadership of the district, and really, let's face it too, the buy-in of local businesses, the buy-in, that's a trust process. Creating that buy-in of local businesses as well, it really will get a economy away from a reliance on one business. And there's nothing wrong with having central key pieces to any economic community, but it's a risk to have a reliance on one. It's a sincere long-term risk and a danger. And, the governor went through some of the stats, but just, adding to that, December 1, since December 1, one of the stats that Glenn shared with me, 689 vendors have registered on the district's Doing Business web portal. 516 of them, 75%, are totally new to the district, totally new. And you know, along with the millage rollback, as the governor pointed out, you've created an environment that is friendly to business and industry. Business believe they can participate. That only happens if you've created that trust and that confidence. And you know, long term too, what does that really mean? You know, what does that actually kind of mean, you know, tangibly in terms of where the district, where this community, where these communities can really go next? Because when you sort of back off sort of onerous government and you inject competition, you inject opportunity, which you must have all of those things to grow an economy, you also then open up additional points of investment. Because from a state perspective, selfishly, a Florida commerce perspective, you know, we have programs and tools to invest in businesses and communities to help them grow, to help inject opportunity into a community. And the private sector obviously does as well. And so you increase that ability to leverage outside investment in the communities around the district. I think back actually to a conversation. I remember this conversation. It was last June. The governor just appointed me to the job, and I was talking with Glenn. Glenn, I think you had been here maybe about a month, and we were just talking through what kind of different programs and tools the state has. And we were talking about small business. I think you'd maybe been on the job maybe a few weeks longer than me, but you said, you know, you wouldn't believe it. There's not really an apparatus here to elevate small business. There's not really an apparatus here to give small business a point of entry. And last year, through our department, through the governor's leadership, we moved out the door over $130 million in small business loans, venture capital tools. There were no participants in this area. There were none. And that cannot be. That should not be. There should be exciting opportunities for entrepreneurs, young businesses, startups to take advantage of that. So those are the kinds of points where, you know, as you work, as you build out opportunity for business and industry, and obviously then the people who are going to get hired by business and industry, you know, you create opportunities then for future investment in workforce, in businesses, in infrastructure. You know, to that end, I just, again, want to congratulate you. For those of you who work here in the district, you should be so proud. You know, change is not easy, but you've done it, you've worked hard, you know, you blocked out the noise and you just did the work, and you're truly, really changing lives in terms of job seekers and job creators. So just on behalf of the department and Governor, thank you for your leadership in this regard. We're just looking forward to continuing to partner with you and growing those opportunities. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Garcia.
All right.
Well, good morning. I am honored that Governor DeSantis asked me to be part of the effort to launch the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which was much needed. The former entity, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which reigned for 56 years, was arguably the most egregious example of corporate cronyism in the history of modern America. Now, before the governor's bold reform actions, the situation before and after is striking. And I don't want to review with you before the old Reedy Creek Act and after what's happened since the governor had the bold courage to sign the new legislation. So before, Disney enjoyed government entitlements like none ever seen in this country. Shockingly, for more than a half century, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, a government agency, was essentially operated by corporate Disney. It employed the following deplorable practices and policies. This is what was going on here for 56 years. First, district board members were essentially handpicked by Disney, a company that also paid some of the board members' real estate taxes. Secondly, Disney employees who were charged with regulating Disney received free park passes and discounts to buy Disney merchandising. That's a no-no. And that resulted in a $2.1 million fine to the district by the Internal Revenue Service. Thirdly, government contracts were given to Disney preferred vendors, which you just heard about, rather than awarded fairly through competitive bidding to the many small businesses in Central Florida that deserve an opportunity to work here. Fourthly, and the governor mentioned this, tax dollars were spent exclusively for the benefit of Disney properties. And Disney, unlike any other business in Central Florida, paid no impact fees. Paid no impact fees, like everyone else. Disney's assets, private company to government agency, think about that. Disney assets were sold to the district under questionable circumstances. And then finally, and this is something that our board is working on because it requires the utilization of experts. Urban planning strategies were adopted that exclusively benefited Disney to the detriment of the rest of Orange and Osceola County. Do you wonder why you sit in traffic on I-4 and inch along, and the minute you get in the district, there's no traffic? This district has impacted Orange and Osceola County, but hadn't paid the impact fees so that the counties outside of the district could provide the services and the infrastructure that was necessary for all of the residents of Central Florida. Now let's talk about after the governor took action, okay? After the governor's reform legislation was signed last year to essentially create a level playing field for the district, the new board he appointed immediately took action to promote accountability, promote transparency, promote equal opportunity, and to promote more prosperity for more people dealing with the district and working with the district. So instead of acting as a corporate subsidiary for Disney, our board now operates as an independent government agency for all of the citizens of the state of Florida. Now, my fellow board members are here today, and I am very proud to serve with them. And I want to tell you about the work that they have done, okay? I just told you about the before picture under the Reedy Creek Act. Let me tell you about the after picture because of our board's work and this governor's courage to sign the legislation. So let me tell you about this isn't all of them, let me tell you about 7 things that my wonderful board has done. 1, our board adopted scores of governance policies to ensure government independence. 2, our board replaced a former senior district executive who had a glaring conflict of interest with Disney. And if you want to find out about that conflict of interest and how ugly it is, read the audit report the governor mentioned. 3, our board reduced the tax rate. As the governor said, the threat that his action was going to result in an increased financial burden here in the district. Nope. Our board reduced the tax rate in the district while at the same time investing in important infrastructure so this district continues to be successful. 4th, as the governor talked about, our board adopted a procurement policy that for the first time in 56 years, affords equal opportunities to every business in Central Florida, big and small, and as the governor indicated, it resulted in a meaningful savings of procurement costs to the district. 5, our board eliminated Disney perks paid to government workers that resulted in that $2.1 million IRS fine, and grossed up the compensation for those workers so they would not be penalized because of Disney's misdeeds. 6, our board approved a collective bargaining agreement with the district's firefighters, a negotiation that had been stalled for 5 years under the old board. And then finally, our board has hired, as the governor mentioned, has hired several of the nation's leading independent experts to advise the board on how to improve the district's financial, operational, and urban planning strategies going forward. And so, look, I am very proud of the reforms that our board has implemented in just 12 short months. I am deeply grateful to the governor for his courage to right the wrongs that persisted here for decades. The district now has a much more just culture and a much brighter future. There is a lot more work to do to fulfill the wishes of the people of Florida under the legislation that the governor signed. And I can promise you, on behalf of my board, that we will continue to reform the district for the benefit of all of its constituents. Thank you.
All right, Drew. Well, thank you, Governor. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. My name is Drew Crawford. I'm an attorney from Polk County. I stand before you today primarily because I am the example of what the Buy Local Now program that's been implemented here in the district and what it can mean for our economy. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and my law firm, and I think you'll understand. So I'm a board-certified city, county, local government attorney. I represent mainly cities. You probably never met me because I'm down in Polk County. My law firm, Boswell and Dunlap, was started in 1900 in Bartow. And we provided legal services to the Polk County community and area governments in that county for over a century. And what's interesting about that, we have a lot of experience that we can bring to bear. We don't advertise. We don't go out and seek work. But what we do when clients need us, and the only way they tell us that they need us is that they put out an advertisement that says, hey, we would like for you to bid on this work. We respond to that, and we are happy to have those clients, and we have a list of a significant public sector innovators, such as City of Winter Haven, such as Polk State College, such as the Polk County School District, and we're happy to add CIFTOD to the list. And I can't tell thanks enough to the governor, thanks enough to the chair, thanks to the district administrator, the members of the Board of Supervisors for that opportunity. So a little bit more about me. I am, as I mentioned, I was a board-certified city, county, local government attorney. I've spent 19 years in municipal law. I've spent 13 as a local government administrative magistrate, handling code enforcement disputes and resolving matters in favor or against just the governments or the folks who appear. And those, I've been asked by by CIFTOD to come in and be the local government magistrate here. And so what does that mean? That means that I'm supposed to do fair, expedient, impartial evaluations, administrative resolutions of building, fire, real property maintenance related matters. And I think the most interesting thing is, this kind of goes to what you were saying, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe there was a code enforcement program here in the district prior to this year. So this way we can, the reason why that's important is that like a court, right? A code enforcement magistrate provides a fair, open public forum for resolving these kinds of disputes. But what it really does is it creates transparency. It improves the collective accountability of property owners to each other and tenants and to property owners, so that you lift, like a rising tide lifts all boats. The properties are maintained to the standards that are created. But it increases the public's confidence that local government, which is the one closest to the people, and the civil inspection teams that are employed by local government are accurate, courteous, responsive, and responsible. And that's exactly what I believe that this board is doing. And Governor, again, I thank you for the opportunity to do that. My last thing I want to say, I think it's important too. Administrator Gilzane, I want to thank you and your staff for the bidding process. As somebody who engages in advising local governments on bidding, I got to tell you that your team and the process here that you have implemented in the district has been excellent. It's been wonderful and very professional, and I hold it out as an example for others to follow. So yeah, thank you. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Mandy.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, again for an opportunity to speak. I don't know if any of you remember me. If you were here this time last year, I was the mom who spoke as not trusting Disney anymore. And so I still stand here today